Hi, my name is Lola Tinumbu from the Association of Black Humanists. Today we have Clive Arwede and Tavian Oladapo.
Yeah.
We are talking about my favorite subject ever, nature. I always hear people saying, take this, it's natural, it's good for you. And it drives me bonkers. I'll start with the Tavian.
Why is that? Why does it drive you bonkers?
You are the expert.
No, I'm not. Actually, we're all we're all here to learn. We're all students of the natural world, if you like.
Yes, you are right. We're all students, and I want to learn from you as one of the,
It's just for me. It's my opinion, and the way I see when they say something is natural, it just exists in nature.
It's
Hey,
natural? Is it good for you?
Well, that's something we made up.
We made it up.
Because it's not what's natural doesn't need to be good for us. The planet is not here for us. It was here before us, and it will most likely be here after we're gone. So this is just the idea that we made up, that if it's good for us, human beings, then it's natural. That's just complete and utter nonsense. Hemlock is natural, but it's not good for us. It exists in nature, right?
And what's good and what's not good is something which we sort of decide. And sometimes the very same thing that is good in one situation, we'll say it's not good in another situation. So good and not good is very relative, and it's very something which it can easily change. It's not fixed at all.
When we were talking earlier on, and we brought up the issue of whether nature is a good thing or a bad thing, you mentioned something about human ego. Do you want to talk about that?
Well, I mean, I think because we come from a school of thought where we think we're the reason that the planet is here. We are the reason that all the animals are here. That says a lot about why we treat animals the way we do. And everything. You have to understand, most of us think that everything was put here for us. And even in Christianity, for example, they talk about God giving them dominion, yes, to go and do whatever they like, go forth and multiply, and everything is here for your benefit. But we now know that's just not the case. It's more because we've had this idea in our head that this is all for our benefit. So if it's not good for us, it cannot be natural. But that's just not true. I mean, and there's no evidence to even back it up. I mean, one of the really good examples I like to use when people talk about what is natural and what is not natural, when we talk about parasites. What parasites do is natural to them. They don't care about us. You know, we're currently going through a crisis with the coronavirus. What viruses are actually doing is actually natural. And I really, really would like to elaborate on that at some point as to why viruses tend to want to find new hosts. This is just what they do. And it just so happens that when they jump into humans and are not used to having them, they create all sort of havoc. And we can see what's going on in the world at the moment. But it's natural. It's not good for us, but it's natural. Viruses will always try to find new hosts. So, yeah.
Yeah, none of existence really is meant to be for us.
No.
I mean, we're just a byproduct of natural processes, if you like. So most of the universe is actually a shooting gallery. You know, there are always things exploding, bashing into each other. There's all sorts of gamma ray bursts and other things, bursts of energy that can wipe out life on the whole planet in the twinkle of an eye, in an instant. So we are just very lucky to be in a relatively quiet, peaceful corner of the universe where we can thrive and grow and multiply, and so we think that the universe
and massage our ego. I think it's interesting that you actually spoke about us being in a shooting gallery. Asteroid impacts fascinate me no end. The Chicxulub crater, which I'm sure you're familiar with, is basically the crater that we now know is responsible for wiping out non-avian dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And a team from Imperial College where I work went there 2 or 3 years ago, I think, to drill and bring back evidence of what they actually think happened. Now, as horrendous as that impact was, we now know that 190 times, at least, because these are the craters that we can still see,
Yeah.
the Earth was pummeled by space rocks. And one...
These are natural phenomena.
Well, it happens all the time. You know, I mean, there's the idea that that's how our moon was formed.
Yes.
With an impact collision. You know, so volcanism is another interesting one. I mean, I could go on and on and on, but I just think it's something we made up to make us feel good. It's natural, therefore it must be good, but it just doesn't apply. It doesn't follow.
It is very easy to maybe criticize believers of Abrahamic religion.
Well, you know I love doing that.
Yes, because I think those religions, they just really exaggerate human ego and our us being the center of not just the planet but the entire universe. But there are other people too that they are not, the conventional believers, but there are people, they say, they feel the energy of the universe, and they worship nature, and they take nature to this. Yes, nature is awesome. Nature is beautiful.
Absolutely.
Nature is amazing. It's everything. I want to talk about when one of the moments in my life that, I had an insight, a different insight into nature when I was in Peru and up on the hills. Because I was the slowest of my team.
Yeah, you went to Machu Picchu, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Can you imagine? I don't know what I was thinking. I have to tell you the story of how I found myself. That was not my intention.
No, I'm jealous.
I wanted to go somewhere else. I didn't know where I was going, and then I spoke to the travel agent. I wanted to see a pyramid anyway. She said to me, "Oh, Machu Picchu," and I thought, okay, I don't know what. That's how I found myself up on the hills. Anyway, so I was always the last. So I was very vulnerable, like I had, if you were not with everybody, because it was like at the edge of a cliff.
Yeah, I know. I've seen
so you were literally walking, and it was narrow. And so it was between you and the depth, and then the hills, and there were like shrubs, some of them, they touched your skin.
Okay.
And then I had donkeys. Some of the donkeys, they were being mischievous. And then it was a game like if they were far away from their owners, they would be coming at me and I'll be thinking, oh my goodness, I'll be holding on to. It was, I just felt, at that moment, I felt nothing. I didn't think that nature, I could tell that nature was beautiful, like when it was quiet, when the donkey went around, or when I was catching up with the rest of the team. But a lot of time when I was by myself, I knew how nothing I was.
Yeah.
I knew how insignificant I was.
Yeah.
And I knew how nothing cared for me. But what I also learned those moments was nature is only good for you when you learn nature. And it is important for us to understand, this is why science is so important, to understand nature, because there are still people living on those hills.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
So for them to live there, they have studied nature, they've mastered it, they know what is good for them in nature and what they need to stay away from in nature, and that's why they've survived. So that nature is your friend.
If you
nature can be your friend.
It can be your friend, yeah.
But we cannot just say from what you are saying and from that experience I had when I was on that what I would call expedition.
Well, we say that nature is kind of indifferent,
Yes, it is indifferent.
Yeah, and
we just happen to be here.
We just happen to be here, and then we've made a niche for ourselves where everything is comfortable and it's nice. But really and truly, nature is characterized by pitiless indifference. Doesn't really care. there's nothing to. There's no idea that it's even there, let alone to care for anything.
Why would it? I mean, if you really think about it, in the grand scheme of things, humans are relatively recent. Why would it be any different? Neanderthals are gone. You know, the planet is not crying and bemoaning their disappearance. Denisovans are gone. Australopithecines are gone. You know, like Lola said, when you learn about the natural world, you're like a child who is just lost in a fantasy land. The reason why paleontology fascinates me so much is that when I look at the amount of animals that used to roam this planet that are gone, Lola, elephants alone, there used to be about 170 different species of elephants.
Wow.
And we only know of 3. Rhinos, same thing. I mean, so yeah, I'm humbled. Every day I learn something new, and I just think, I'm glad that I am able to actually soak this all in. I kind of wish I started earlier.
Yeah, I think that's one of the benefits of coming out of religion, as I have, is that you take more of an interest in what's going on in the natural world.
I mean, don't get me wrong, sorry to jump in.
That's all right.
I do think that some religious people can also enjoy that.
Of course.
And I know a few.
Of some who do.
Religion doesn't necessarily have to kill your curiosity.
It doesn't, but it crowds out the good stuff, if you like. And then there's far too much of the nonsense. But I'm sorry to call it nonsense, but you know what I mean.
No, I know what you mean.
Yeah, but one thing with nature is that it's always in competition competition between species, competitions within the species. You know, so.
Can I ask a question? Does nature save more than it destroys?
Oh God. Well, you'd have to put that in maybe a larger context. Are we talking about in general? Because
in general.
Gosh, well then no. I mean, because the thing is, what we now know about mass extinctions is shocking. If you think they would, I mean, people throw out this figure that 99.9% of all animals that ever lived are extinct. I have a problem with that figure because we really don't have any way of knowing, because we can only go on what we've seen in the fossil record, but that is actually shocking enough. Like I just said, I've just talked about elephants, and we knew there were hundreds of different species of elephants. There are now only 3. So even if you take that as a small example, you can see that a lot of animals that belong to the same order.
I think it's not just, if you are more conversant in this than I am, I don't think it's just about animals. I think they talk about species. So it's about plants,
everything.
birds. So it's not just 99% of animals. It's 99% of species.
But to come back to your point, the thing is that nature, at the point where it's destructive, is also creative. So you know, it's never totally one thing or totally.
Oh no, because the thing is that you're right. After every mass extinction, there's almost like a rebirth and a radiation of new species, and all of a sudden you can see it in the fossil record. You see that the animals that survive then begin to it's essentially what happened to birds after the demise of non-avian dinosaurs.
And it's how we got here, because the dinosaurs were wiped out pretty much. And so
and mammals were able to
speciate and occupy all the niches that perhaps dinosaurs used to occupy, and even some niches which they didn't. But we took over so many different niches, different mammals taking over different niches. And so nature has that power to both destroy and create.
Well, it does. I mean, it does. And dinosaurs themselves were beneficiaries of a previous mass extinction, because before dinosaurs there were other animals that are not dinosaurs that are just as fantastic. And when I think about it now, I'm thinking, damn it, I should have been a paleontologist.
Just out of interest, were they as big?
Some
of them.
Yeah, some. There's one I can never get my mouth around it. Cotylorinchus was this huge, ugly-looking reptile. I mean, he was huge. Gorgonopsians are very famous. They're mostly found in South Africa and Russia. They're kind of like the size of a large dog with saber teeth. And again, some of them were small. I mean, not all dinosaurs were big. This is often a mistake that people make. I mean, the earliest dinosaurs were kind of like chicken size, and they just grew and grew and grew and grew and grew until we get to like things like T-Rex and Argentinosaurus and things like that. They didn't start as big animals, but before dinosaurs. Because dinosaurs, pterosaurs and crocodilians are descended from archosaurs. And some of the archosaurs, you couldn't even tell them, you couldn't tell the difference between them and dinosaurs. The differences were very small. And even before that, you can go even further back and there are other animals that are kind of almost like mammals, but they're not quite mammals. They used to call them therapsids, and now they call them stem mammals or proto-mammals. And they're almost like halfway between a mammal and a reptile. I mean, it really is really fascinating stuff.
Okay, let's bring it down from that height of science to regular life. One other thing is about, I'm not knocking it, but I like to question it, and I'm concerned when, because even my daughter sometimes is guilty of that, you know, things like herbal remedies that are promoted as natural, you know, natural hair product, natural this, natural that. How should we how should we feel about promotion of certain things as natural product and good for us?
Well, that's kind of out of my scope a little bit, but I'm going to try and see how I can deal with this. I can understand that because a lot of the stuff we use nowadays is artificially artificial, it's manufactured, it's got all sorts of stuff. But
those products, are they not manufactured?
What the stuff?
Some of this, you know, that they sell in shops. Say, oh, this product, is natural product, is good for you. You know, some of them.
Yeah, but some of them are not necessarily being truthful. But I think that what they're trying to say is that this stuff is just come out of the ground, or this is stuff that you could, you know, that is organically grown and it hasn't got any chemicals in it. It hasn't got any of these artificial derivatives in it. And I can understand why they're trying to sell that, because we do live in a time where we do consume, for food, for example, we consume too much processed food. There is a lot of evidence to suggest that the microbes in our gut don't actually like the modern diet. It's not actually good for us. And there is evidence to suggest that people who have kind of like, if you want to call it the hunter-gatherer lifestyle, where they have this sort of ancient diet, have a more diverse.
No, those are not the ones
I know, but I'm just trying to.
I'm okay. I understand.
Okay.
That, you know, organic farming, organic.
Okay.
Yes, and then not eating processed food.
Okay.
It's I don't know. I can't readily give an example, especially, you know, those of us that, you know, go to specialist African shops for our, you know, maybe hair product, you know, our cosmetics, and then you find this product in jars and are being promoted as natural and good for you. And when you see, you know, I saw a show on Dragos Den, you know, the BBC Dragos Den. So it was, you know, these two ladies promoting this product as natural. By the time one of the ladies, you know, on the panel, by the time she broke it down,
it wasn't.
It wasn't.
Yeah.
And these things are, you know, and it says, you know, it's from that idea that when something is natural, it is good. It is good for you.
Okay, I see where you're going. Because we've made the mistake of thinking that natural means good for us.
Yes.
And so this is essentially where we've been before. And for me, that actually has no meaning. when you say natural is just natural. It exists in nature. For me, that's it. End of story. It really doesn't matter whether it's good for us or whether it's good if I put it on my toes or my ears or my armpits. It exists in nature, so it is natural. If it exists in nature and I put it on my tongue and I die, it's still natural.
Yeah, it's still natural.
From my point of view,
Yeah.
anyway. For me, it just means that it exists in nature. That is about as natural as it needs to be. Volcanic eruptions are natural, but if you stand inside of one, you will die. Do you know what I mean?
Volcanic is natural.
Yeah. You know, so again, it goes back to that idea that if it's good for us, it must be natural. That's just our doing. That's just our misconceptions, I think, anyway.
Yeah.
So we have to essentially understand nature, be interested in nature, and know what is good for us in nature and what does not work for us in nature.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, Clive.
No, that's really the whole problem in a nutshell. It's just because it's natural doesn't mean straight away that you'll get some benefit from it. You could get some benefit from it,
or not.
Like all these wooden tables and chairs that we have. It's great. But if somebody makes a club out of wood and hits you on the head with it, it's definitely not going to be wonderful.
Only beat you on the head with a natural product.
Yeah,
Yes,
because
yes.
it's natural. It doesn't.
I just think that we're only beginning to learn about the natural world. And I remember, it's funny when you say that, and I've said this to you before, I love talking about parasites, because what parasites do are natural. And I always talk about malaria because it's one of my pet parasites. That the human malaria parasite, for example, has to live inside the belly of a mosquito and inside the blood and liver cells of a human host. This is what it does.
The liver cells?
Yes, yes. It actually, when the mosquito bites into the human host, the parasite will leave the mosquito. And what it needs to do is it needs to get into your bloodstream and to get to your liver and hide.
Gosh.
Oh yeah, it's actually incredible. It races to your liver and then it goes there and hides and then it starts to reproduce. And they change shape. Malaria parasites are shapeshifters, and I think they go through 4 or 5 different shapes while they're moving through all these different hosts. And they actually start and they hide there, and when they need to then migrate to your blood cells, they change again, but they hide. So they actually apparently cover themselves with some of your cell. They kind of grab it and cover themselves like a ninja.
Yeah, so they're disguising.
Yeah, they disguise themselves.
Gosh.
This is what these parasites do inside us, and it is completely natural. If they end up in a different host, they cannot complete their life cycle. Now, how many people die from malaria every year? 400,000 people die from malaria every year. Most of these are children under the age of 5 in Africa. Yet what malaria does is completely natural. And it gets even worse than that. Every step we take to defend ourselves, they either take 1 or 2. But it's natural. This is what they're doing. So do we then make the argument that, oh, well, because the malaria parasite is defeating us every so often. I mean, look at how long we've been trying to, stop malaria. And we're not actually...
No.
It's not happening.
It's not happening.
It's not happening because when I don't know what you know about how we've been trying to fight malaria over the years. When we discovered artemisinin, which is one of the most recent anti-malaria drugs, it was held as a wonder drug, blah blah blah.
This will be the end of
we've
malaria.
got you now, you
Yeah.
son of a. Well, what did the parasite do? It evolved resistance to artemisinin. And then we have to find something. They did it before with chloroquine. They did it with nivaquine. And it's natural what they're doing. We're trying to survive. They're trying to survive. It harms us in the process.
The same problem we're having with antibiotics.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Because we use it, and the microbes we are trying to kill are also trying. So essentially we're shooting a gun at them, and they recognize the bullets.
Well, it's what they call an arms race.
Yeah. And
It's what they call-
so they're like, we know that bullet. Okay, okay. Here's our shield, and it's just a continuous. It's incredible, And it humbles me because I realized a long time ago, we just happen to be here. We may well not be here in another 1,000 years, 2,000 years,
Definitely.
even a couple of hundred, you know, if you think of the current climate and what's going on. Because all these pathogens are coming out of China, and they might come out from somewhere else. And this is not something that's going to stop anytime soon. And it's natural.
What do you think about people that don't want to vaccinate their children?
Politely?
I think we need to.
You can be as polite or impolite as you want.
Here's my take on it. I think modern medicine has made us really complacent because our peers have not lived through polio and smallpox and tetanus. We really, truly don't understand how lucky we are to live now, and not maybe 1,000 years ago when people used to die from a tooth infection. When just a cut on your leg will kill you. And the problem is because we now live in the age of the internet where information and misinformation gets thrown out there willy-nilly, it's very easy to sell ignorance. And a lot of people are doing that. That's my take on it. Vaccines are a wonderful thing. Think of it like this. In the 20th century alone, smallpox killed 300 million, an estimated 300 million. It's probably more than that. But even if it only killed 3 million, is 3 million too much? Why don't we die of smallpox anymore? Because of a vaccine. So, but yeah, you get people now who actually don't know the first thing about vaccines. But because of the internet, because on the internet everybody's an expert. I'm not an expert, but at least I know I'm not. Do you understand what I mean?
Yes, of course. But you look at the current problem that we're having with COVID-19, coronavirus. I mean, we don't have a vaccine. So, and of course, so the scare is that so many people are going to die. It could be run into hundreds of thousands eventually. It could run into millions. We don't know.
But the anti-vaccine people, they want the coronavirus vaccine, though, don't they?
The anti-vaccine people.
Yeah.
Some of them will tell you now that don't take vaccines, even for this. Maybe it's only because we're at the beginning stages. You know, we're still at the foothills. We haven't really reached the peak.
I think that, put it this way, one of the most devastating pandemics to have ever blighted our species was the Spanish flu in 1918, which they think killed an estimated 50 million in the space of a year to 2 years. I guarantee you, if another avian flu strain was to emerge and people were falling over, dying, the same people that are saying no vaccines will be the first in line to get a vaccine for H1N1. I guarantee you, it's just complete and utter nonsense. It's because we live in relative safety, and so people can say, oh no, we don't want no vaccines, you're putting stuff in my children, and it's complete and utter. We become really complacent. We don't understand. One, I think it's a problem that we don't understand evolution. I think actually that is a fundamental problem, that we don't understand where diseases come from. We don't understand how pathogens emerge. Since this coronavirus thing, some of the stuff I've read online is just like, I'm just like, can someone just send a virus to just wipe us all out? It's just so it's depressing, Lola. It's just depressing. And they say this stuff. I've had people say it was created by the Chinese to kill the Americans. It was created by the Americans to kill the Chinese. It was created by somebody else to kill somebody else. Then some people saying it's not true, it's fake. All the people that are dead are not really dead. The media are lying to us. And the conspiracy theories are not even consistent. And you're thinking, okay, what is the problem here? Because people don't understand disease. So it's very easy to sell something to somebody when they're ignorant. And that's my take. I think the anti-vaccine people are lucky, they just don't know it. They just don't know it.
Yeah, but I mean, we should really all want vaccines, because when somebody has a vaccine and doesn't get whatever it is, then they're not going to spread it. Because sometimes you don't just pick these things up, you pick it up from being in a population of people, some of whom have got...
It's like,
I think some people are thinking that you can develop natural protection against some of them, yes, without vaccine. I don't know where that...
Well, that does happen.
Yeah.
But the problem is, it just takes... Evolution, in some cases, just takes a long time to do its thing. So yeah, it does happen, but a lot of people will die first. So it can happen.
So the risks are not...
No.
Somebody said something on, I think on Facebook, about developing a vaccine for coronavirus. I have to be honest, I wasn't too keen about the idea.
Why not?
I just, okay, this is my ignorance, you know, and I'm not asking anyone to it's an opinion not based on information.
Okay.
So I own, my hands are up on this. I just thought, how many vaccines can we have? You know, how many things do we want to be protected from?
All of them. And to be honest with you, it's an interesting question, and we're going to have to keep doing it because these pathogens are going to keep emerging. There are more of them than us. But what we're now...
Well, there are more of them than us.
Yeah, there are. Listen.
Of course. Of course, yes.
Yeah. But more importantly, what we're now trying to do...
But I like it that you said it that way. I've never, of course, you know, we have them in zillions, micro,
quintillions.
Yes,
I don't even have a name for the numbers.
But it's never, the way you've said it, it's never been, I've never had it like that before. So it's part of us knowing that we are nothing, we are insignificant in nature. We are not.
No, we're so insignificant, it's actually scary. Let me tell you the little bit that I've learned. When I started reading about viruses, and this is way before I ever started working in microbiology, I read a book by a brilliant writer called Carl Zimmer, who I love his work. And in one of his books, in this book, A Planet of Viruses, he said, you put a teaspoon in the ocean and you are probably going to get about 200 million viruses in that teaspoon of water. They are everywhere. And most bacteria in the ocean are actually killed by viruses that prey on bacteria. So this war is not just us, between us and pathogens, it's between pathogens and other pathogens. They're constantly, the war is, evolution is everywhere. Everybody is basically trying to reproduce or die. And so, for me, it's incredibly humbling, and not just because some of them are trying to kill us, because actually, when you really think about it, it doesn't benefit the virus to kill its host. It just happens that it does. A lot of the time, it's our immune system. They're just going crazy because it's thinking, foreigner, kill it, like Trump. You know? But, and then you have the microbes that we rely on to live. That we rely on to digest our food and temper our immune system. And if you remove all the microbes in the world, we will die. How profound is that?
Wow.
Yeah, how profound is that?
Why do you think people have that kind of ego and place themselves above
religion?
Okay, let me ask that. I will ask. Do you want to write down the question?
I know, like, religious-wise, yeah. But generally, like, humans, even without religion,
have a huge ego, yes. So maybe I'm a bit unfair. Maybe it's not just religion, it's our ego. Because it's our ego that made us create religion in the first place.
Can you ask the question?
Why do we place ourselves?
Why, yeah, where did that... I know, like, religion, but overall, why do people...
Why do humans have such a huge ego? Is that an easy way to put the question? Right.
Now, with everything you've said, why is it still that human beings will still place ourselves, at the top of even food chain, or at the top of, we just have this sense that we are superior to
Well,
everything else
I
in
think,
nature.
I think events have played out the way it has, and it would be almost inevitable for any species to be where we are and not think like that, I actually think. I think if it was Neanderthals that were here instead of Homo sapiens, they would probably think, we're special, we're perfect, this is all here because of us. If it was dinosaurs who had never died out and they had the kind of intelligence to be self-aware and sentient, they probably would have said exactly the same thing. What I find interesting though is that if today there were still all the other human species that we now know existed, I think we'd think differently.
You think so?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think possibly
Yeah.
we will think human species, different human species are superior. But maybe we will not
It will be more of a collective thing.
collective
That's-
superiority.
All of us are special.
Yeah. But you
Yeah,
know,
but-
about superiority of
Yeah.
animals, sometimes I see, this is why I'm going to say something, you know, a bit, I don't know whether it's controversial, but that's what I believe. I don't like, it's too late now, you know, we've domesticated some animals.
Yes.
You know, cats and dogs.
Yes.
But I really don't like people owning animals. Because when I see them, you know, like when I'm watching documentaries and I'm seeing them in their natural setting, you see pride in them. You see, you know, you see them walking when, you know, when they are, look at gorillas, like if, you know, the alpha male, when their environment is settled and they have food and the children are jumping up and down, you know, and life is calm and good for them, you see the gorillas walking really, you know, with a lot of pride.
Yeah, I personally don't like zoos, aquariums. I don't like sanctuaries or whatever they're called. It's all part of that. We're
Domination,
taking care
yeah.
of you, and it's like
We are saving you, yeah.
We've destroyed, I guess, the planet that has made, you know, these animals extinct. But then you find you have one left and you want to preserve it. For what? I find it very patronizing.
Trying to close the stable door after the horse has bolted. I do agree that we shouldn't keep wild animals in a cage. However, I think dogs are awesome. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but how will you like it? How will you like it if there is like a species that
You get me as a pet.
in a yes, that basically.
I wouldn't, but we have to remember that
It's okay now because it's you know, that ship has tail.
Well, the point I was trying to make is we have to remember that whether we like it or not, humans domesticated the dog.
Yes.
And actually, most dogs would be lost without their owners. They wouldn't even know what to do with themselves.
I don't accept that.
Well, what happens is in fact, in
I think-
nature,
I think
how
will
do-
be-
That's how they've been.
how will you find
breeding,
anything
that's
called
what
a
they
dog in nature?
Yeah.
What happened was, I think the
So
took
dogs
a
are
wolf,
creations, you know.
wolf, yeah,
Oh,
and
they
then
were,
and then they-
yeah. I mean,
and then selected
yeah.
the ones which are, you know, the most friendly to human beings, and then you select the most friendly until you end up with dogs and different species of dogs. So dogs are like something which we have done
created.
through, man-made selection rather than
well, we did a lot of
natural
that.
selection.
We created a chicken. Human beings created a chicken. There was no the domesticated chicken that we eat today didn't exist like 10,000 years ago. We created it from the red jungle fowl. I think somewhere in Asia they came from.
Yeah,
The domestic pig
Yeah.
didn't exist. We created it.
yeah.
Cows.
Cows, yeah.
The modern cows, we created them.
Yeah.
Because of food and milk and
Yes,
stuff.
yeah.
So we've been doing this for a long time.
That's
And you
very
could make
good.
the argument that probably if we hadn't have done this, we would have probably starved to death.
Yeah.
Well, even like a banana, for example.
Yeah, oh God, don't even get me started on the different vegetables and fruit. Tomatoes, corn,
Yes.
the beans, just the list goes on and on and on. When you see the earliest banana, you couldn't even eat the thing.
No, it doesn't even look like anything
Yeah.
like what we have now.
Wow.
Oh yeah, earliest
This is
corn.
really fascinating.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
guess, you know, like
Do you know
veg.
what you are saying? I think we will need to have another topic on another day about when people say you are playing God.
We've been doing it for ages.
Yeah.
God didn't create
So
any dogs.
we need to be God.
God didn't create the bacon that we eat today. He didn't create the cows that we the beef that we no.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So we created cows.
Yeah, the modern cows.
I'm just learning all this. We
Yeah.
created. I didn't know this.
Yeah.
We created cows,
Yeah.
chicken,
Yeah.
Cows,
pigs,
cows,
banana.
Yeah, the list goes on and on. The modern cows that we eat today, if I'm correct, were domesticated from the auroch.
Mm.
So imagine Neanderthals would never have met the modern cow.
Mm.
They would have never ate bacon. Yeah, they might have chased a wild hog, but they would have never had a piglets running around, and
Yeah.
they didn't do any of that.
Mm.
And actually, most of it we did fairly recently.
Mm.
Same way like how we started digesting milk into old age. Fairly recent thing. We all know about that.
It's all in the last 10,000 years.
10,000
or so.
years, yeah.
You know, because that's when farming really
Yeah.
started.
Mm.
So
You know? So we've been playing God since.
Yeah.
And we had to play God because there was no God to play God. Do you know what I mean? So of course we had to do something about it. We found ourselves on this planet, and all of a sudden, oh, we have to eat, okay, and we're living in larger and larger groups. We're no longer hunter gatherers, and so we don't want to have to keep moving from place to place. What do we do in order to guarantee a healthy supply of food? We start to breed animals. It was always going to happen, and that's why it didn't just happen in one part of the world. It happened all over the place. And what's funny, I have to tell you this story, even though it's a ridiculous story, but it just makes me laugh. Apparently, when the missionaries went to Papua New Guinea to preach Christianity to them, they had no bovines, they had no sheep, no cows, no goats, they only had pigs. So Jesus was referred to as the pig of God.
Oh.
It was the only analogy that they could use.
yes.
So instead of saying the Lamb of God,
Oh! I get it.
they said the pig of God.
Oh, God, I love
and the
that.
Papua New Guineans were like, yeah,
I get it. So the missionaries themselves,
yeah.
they said, Jesus, Jesus is the pig of God.
Because they must have said lamb, and they was like, what is lamb?
Like no lamb.
What do you mean lamb? What is lamb? You know, so it's
Jesus is the sacrificial pig
of
of God.
God.
We end this on that note.
Yeah, that made me laugh. That made me laugh.
Okay.